Many people are living a very unhappy life in their marriages. Many are living in agony, crying every day, struggling every day, because one of the reasons as to why they experience this is because of unmet expectation. We get married, we expect something. When we get there, it is very different from our expectation. Therefore, we cover this topic this season to deal with the agony in marriage by dealing with unmet expectation. Welcome into our Friday conversation. Go together with us. God bless you.
Hello everyone, we are delighted to have this conversation with Reverend Allan. We continue with our series, Agony in Marriage, and today I just want to invite the host of the show, Reverend Allan Kiombe, karibu kwenye show, and give us the menu of the day. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting us once again as we invite you to work together with us. We've been discussing about agony in marriage. We started by dealing with broken covenants, and in broken covenants we dealt with sexual cheating. And today we want to deal with unmet expectations in marriage as a result of agony in marriage.
Thank you, Reverend Allan. We have Vicar SK Belgut. It's always a pleasure to have you, sir. Reverend Nicholas Low, teach all the way from Belgut. I want to invite our counselor psychologist, lecturer, University of Kabianga, none other than Janet Surum Kiplagat. It's always a delight to have you on this show. So we roll up the show and we begin by saying definitions. I want to ask Reverend Allan to open up to tell us what is unmet expectation.
Unmet expectation in marriage is defined by the word unmet expectation. That is, you go into something anticipating a certain result, but you get a different result. When you bargain for whatever you want in marriage and you enter into that marriage, instead you get either the very opposite or you miss that which you stood for. Therefore, I think unmet expectation in marriage would be living a life of marriage that is below that which you expected or that is away from that which you expected. Now you are receiving a different thing. Like what we normally say, that in the ground things are different from what we are seeing up here. Yeah.
Thank you. What are your thoughts? What do we mean, or what is the meaning of an expectations, Vicar?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for this time that I'm getting to say one or two things. Yes, we initially defined marriage as in a section that people get married, and so they say, I, so and so, take you, so and so, and then blah, blah, for better, for worse, for poorer, for richer, and on and on. And so in that context is that we need to unpack this for better, for worse, for poorer, for richer, in sickness and in health. And so we need to, and that people come to marriage expecting that their lives will be better or otherwise. And so when we get there is that things can play out differently. And so it is that which we can now say that kind of an expectation may not have been met. And so we need to unpack that and see what can we do when we are there.
Okay, in agony in marriage and unmet expectation, as a counselor, what is your input to these definitions?
Once again, thank you for having me here.
Thank you.
So, unmet expectations are the desires that we go with into a marriage. And then those desires, they go unfulfilled. They go unachieved. And those become
unmet expectations. Maybe to discuss further, there's always an aspect of marriage whereby you marry the body, the soul, the mind, the work, and the world of somebody. So maybe I would request us to expound a little bit so that we can really understand the concept of unmet expectation and why it's bringing agony in marriage. Reverend Allan.
Thank you. You know, when you marry or you are getting married, you are not only marrying a person, but you are marrying a lot of things that that person represents. That's why people have got so many reasons as to why they married so and they did not marry the other one. Sometimes you would see people and you say, why did you marry this one and you married this other one? Yet this one was available. And they will say, this is not my type. This is not a man that I expect to have as a husband, or a woman I expect to have as a wife. Because we marry more than an individual person. We marry a whole life that this person is every time we marry. I would actually say when we marry six aspects of a person. That is what we go for. And when we keep on staying in marriage, sometimes when these six aspects are challenged, that's the time we say, this is not what I came for. And maybe I would say we marry a soul of a person. When I married a soul. And everything that is that soul, that is what I married. I admired the personality. I admired the temperament of this particular person. I married a soul. When something changes as this person grows by, I discover this is not the soul that I married. That's why you would hear people say, this is not the man that married me. This is not the woman that I married. When you marry, you also marry a mind. The mind of this person. How this person thinks, how this person analyze things, how this person understand things. That is the thing that you married. That's why you hear, you know why I love this girl? She's sharp. I love her because on how she processes issues of life. When someone marries, he also marries a character of a person. You say, I married this one because she had a very good character. She was so calm in character. She was so kind in character. She was so giving in character. She was so confrontational in character. So you also marry a character of a person. When you marry somebody, you also marry their body. That's why someone may be having every quality, but you don't like their body. There are some people who just love girls that are small-bodied. There are those who like big-bodied.
And there are women who love tall black men.
There are women, they said that I want a tall black man. So some of us are axed out. And there are those who like just a short man.
Yes.
When they see a short man, they just want that short man. There are those who want light-skinned person.
Yeah.
There are those who say, I don't want a light skin. So you love a body. And that's why in marriage, at some point, you discover when women give birth and their body begins to change, some people begin to complain. Or when a man begins to get money and the stomach appreciates, the woman begins to do what? To change. Because she married a body. She didn't marry this mass of a man. She married a man.
She did not marry the stomach. The belly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, another thing also is the world. You marry somebody's world. You hear people, the way people speak. This one comes from a rich family. This one comes from an accomplished family. So you married a rich family. You married an accomplished family. This one, their family is so much exposed. They travel widely. You marry them. This one comes from a Christian family. You married that world of this particular person. So when things change, you discover that, oh, this one did not come with this world or a world in our marriage. That is where you say my expectations were not met. Especially those girls who normally run to marry young men that are coming from a wealthy, well-to-do families. And they discover that it is different. Or people marry and marry because someone has a certain accomplishment somewhere.
They marry the car or the career.
Yes. Again, people marry somebody's work. You marry somebody because he's a judge, because he's a doctor, because he's a pastor, because he's an accomplished businessman. You marry their work. So when things happen and the work gets away, it becomes a different thing. And that's why many people, especially men, because they know most women married work, when they caught you, they lie to you about their work. They are doing a different work, but they are telling you they are doing a different work. They are the lowest cadre in their places of work, yet they tell you I'm the MD of this organization. As I would always bring my late comedian Papa Shirandula, who was saying I am an IT manager. So the wives married an IT manager, yet he was a watchman in that. So because he knew these ladies are marrying my work. So I would actually say those are the things that play when we begin to experience unmet expectations in marriage.
Thank you, Reverend. What's your take? Vika, especially on the belly issue.
Okay. Yes. For me, is that I just want to say there is a lot in that gown when we are doing um, a wedding service. Yeah, there is a lot in that suit, and when people are coming into marriage, is that there is a lot which we may not have even revealed when a service is happening. And when people are coming into marriage, is that sometimes I want to say they may not have exhausted sharing and asking, what do I expect? And so for me, as I see it, and as I interact with people, especially the married people, is that they have a deep cry in their hearts, especially when they are going through a particular challenge and asking themselves, I didn't expect this because I thought it was this. And so if you got married to a particular person expecting something good and better, you may not get, because maybe things can play out differently. Physique, the way people look like, and someone said actually, women marry and quote unquote bad men, expecting that they will change when they are married, and so they remain the same. They don't change because they find that it was only a suit which was good, and the man inside it was not. And then also it is said, men marry women expecting that they will not change. And so that beautiful person inside a gown, if she plays out differently, and so you get disappointed. And that is where the agony is. That is where the real agony is, because you've made lifelong commitments, and so you are not able to come and retreat from that one. And so things, you expected too much of a person, and so they are giving you could be a second fiddle or less.
Janet, what are your thoughts on the character, world, mind, soul? Body?
I would say that during
The world.
maybe actually a flawed perception of this person. Unfortunately, the only way to learn this person is, and again I insist on premarital counseling, to completion, and also intentionally wanting to know the other person. So for me, the pastor has called them the six
Aspects
or
that you marry.
the aspects, yeah. So the aspects they're just flawed. They are flawed. The aspects are very true and they are very real, but they become realless when you're in a marriage now. If you avoided the premarital counseling and time to understand each other, to know each other, then of course it will be expectations.
Interesting. Yes, Reverend.
Maybe I would say the good thing with marital counseling, as Janet says, it unmasks a person, so that when you are marrying, you know what you are marrying. And actually, it's true. The 6 things of marriage is a very serious aspect that people need to discuss before they get into marriage. You discover someone loves someone, let us say, is tall. She finds somebody that is tall, but she also wanted somebody that has a good work. So the tall man does not have the good work, and she wanted somebody that comes from a good background. So the tall man comes from the good background, and then she wanted somebody that had a good soul. The man is very arrogant. So you are marrying something like a zigzag here. When you get into marriage, you are happy here, you are not happy here, you are happy here, you are not happy here, because people concentrate with those things, of which, why did we discuss about the aspect of marriage, the original purpose of God of marriage? Because the original purpose of marriage is corrupted by these 6 things that we go to look for. We don't want to develop a culture of intimacy to understand and to know this man or this woman. Now we just take the person because of these aspects, and then when we get there, we discover life is more than that. Marriage is more than that. Yeah.
Yes, maybe something to add is that we also tend to limit. We limit what we want, and so we are limited to beauty. We are limited to handsomeness, what is being displayed, and so we said we are tending to be casual, and so we only go for this body because we want to gratify our desires, and so we limit to that. We also limit to things that are things of wealth or riches. We target the pocket, and so we miss the mark by targeting, by also limiting to that, and we fail to remember that there is a load that surrounds a person, which is good in marriage, which should help us in getting married, which we are getting married to actually, because when we get married to money, his pocket, his bank account, when we get married to his work, or we get married to his body or her body, then, and that body, as I said, it is fluid. It changes. It changes. It is never the same. Yes, if you look at my photographs, for example, and this one is for me and could be for you. When I was getting married, I was so thin. I don't know if that lady wanted a thin person. At the moment, I may have changed even now. And so we continue saying and asking ourselves, did you want this? Did you expect this? So people need to be clarifying the expectations as they continue and as they get along.
Maybe another aspect to contribute here is the hidden dreams that people don't share. Maybe somebody was aspiring to pursue their education or just to go and work elsewhere. Because I've seen couples that are married, but they are living in two different countries for a very long time. And people feel trapped because now they are married. And then you'll find instances whereby somebody had plans that didn't share with you. So after the gown is off, after the suit is off, back to the t-shirt and the skirt, somebody just disappears. And those are some of the things that people feel trapped in the marriage institution that brings agony. Yes,
Yeah.
Reverend.
Actually, after saying that, I remember some of also other things that could bring those unmet expectations is where somebody is coming from. The father that the lady saw, she expects the husband to be like the father. Her picture of her husband is the picture of the father. And maybe the father was too good, especially those who are coming from very good and composed fathers. Now they expect the husband to behave like the husband to behave like the father. I remember in my initial stages of marriage, when my wife wanted to posse myself and the father used to buy meat, to go to the butchery to buy meat. Me, my father, that's not the work of men. That's not the work of men in our place. So you try to play your father. You try to play your father in this. The father used to pamper them before they go to sleep, as you find us in bed. You know, those kinds of things. You try to bring the father into the marriage. You want to bring your mother. A man wants to bring his mother
The soup of the
to his
mother.
wife.
Yes.
That's why you see my wife is not cooking like my mother. My wife is not as caring as my mother. Or your sisters, you want to bring them into your wife's life, where somebody is coming. Number two, again, what somebody did not want in their parents.
Yes.
I saw the marriage of my mother. I saw the marriage of my father. And I was trying to run away from this kind of life. Again, I'm meeting this kind of life in this man. I'm meeting this kind of life in this woman. My father used to beat my mother. Now I'm coming here again, I'm being beaten. My mother used to insult my father. Now I'm here again, I am being insulted. So those are the things, again, that play around us. We are talking about this topic.
Interesting. Maybe from the counselor's perspective, what are some of the examples of unmet expectations? Some of the examples.
Actually, I think when I listen to their
Contribution.
segmentation of this, actually it narrowed my perspective, and I thought to myself, that is actually what it all entails,
Mhm.
actually.
Mhm.
So you've asked me about the
Examples.
or
What are
the
some of the examples you can pinpoint that this is an unmet expectation? The way Pastor is saying an unmet expectation in terms of an example is given in terms of the girl wanting the husband to be the father or the man wanting the wife to be the mother. That is an example.
Okay, fine. So there, if actually these unmet expectations come from a lot of comparison, yeah.
Mhm.
So, for example, I'm just relating to what Pastor has talked about.
Mhm.
I saw my father praying.
Mhm.
You see, I saw my father raising us up in prayer,
Mhm.
etc. Then I expect that this husband, not all men can pray. Actually, for some men, it is very strange.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's for some people.
Mhm.
So you come into this marriage, and this man cannot even pray for food.
Mhm.
That becomes a very, yeah, like for me, I did not see my father pray.
Mhm.
You see,
Mhm.
so if I found someone who prays a lot again, maybe it would. I did not see my father pray.
Okay.
So I don't know what to.
What are some of the examples, Vika, you can cite?
Yes, for me, which I'll still go back to what our agreement when we were getting married, and we said for richer, for poorer, and so people expect they'll be richer,
Mhm.
and so someone plays around, and maybe the riches are not coming, and so that one is an unmet expectation. We thought we'll get children,
Mhm.
yeah, and maybe children may not be forthcoming. Then that one may be unmet expectation. Yes, and so how do we go about it? You talked earlier on, talked about the physique and a particular person. You expected a person to be more beautiful,
Mhm.
and so that beauty is waning, it's fading away.
Mhm.
Yeah, and of course it is relative.
Mhm.
And so maybe from your own perspective, there was some definition of what is beautiful,
Mhm.
and so somehow that one is not coming out. There can be so many, depending on what Reverend Alia said, what we marry, and so we expect. Unfortunately, what people don't do is that we are not up close and candid to ask and say, I expect this as we engage.
Mhm.
We also don't have a kind of quote unquote road test.
Mhm.
Yeah, road test. So road test before we get married.
Mhm.
Road test as in
You stay with somebody first.
yes,
Yeah.
like
Mm.
like you are getting married, and so you are only expecting. We don't have more time to interact and ask, oh, 1, 2, 3. Others even have cheated. I remember one incident when someone was saying, I expected this one was a virgin. Yeah, and that one is pretty early in marriage, in honeymoon. I thought you told me you are a virgin, and you are not. Yes, yeah. Yes, yeah. So those are very few. There are so many unmet expectations.
And maybe even like the duties of a husband, the duties
Yes.
of a wife, what is supposed to happen, who is supposed to provide what,
Who's supposed to plan?
who's supposed to plan.
Like what I married versus what I have now.
Yeah.
What I wanted versus
This is what
I got.
I married. Actually, it's what I married. You wanted it, I married. And this person was this. But now what I have now. I married a slender girl. Now I'm having a huge
Yes.
person.
Yes.
I married a slender young man. Now I'm having a big person. You see? I married a rich man. Now he's a poor man.
Or a faithful one.
Now he's unfaithful.
Yes.
That's number one. Number two, again, during courtship and relationship, people put a lot of masks. They hide who they really are because their work is to impress. When you enter into marriage, we normally say now you have put somebody in a box. They cannot come out of box. Now you remove the mask. In marriages, there are no masks between the two people. There are no masks. That's why those people used to marry in the past from the discotheques. They would say, the lights made me to see a different person. Now I've come home, it's a different person. Or somebody had done a lot of foundations and these
Wig.
things here.
Wig.
In the night they sleep and
Saliva.
the saliva destroys the face, you see. So the masks are off, and then you meet totally different person. And that's why sometimes in church here, you tell somebody, why are you doing this to your wife? And he says, you know, when I married this person, I thought she was beautiful. Remember, there's a time I was handling another man and he told me, I thought I was loving my wife, but nowadays I feel I don't love her. She was just helping me over something, but now I feel like I don't love her. Things have changed. When we marry and people bring a different picture from what they are, we play very humble before marriage. After marriage, you hear somebody is beating people. We play very respectful and submissive before marriage. After marriage, you discover that somebody is so arrogant, somebody is so rebellious, he doesn't hear you. When someone is getting married, sometimes they really want to get married. So they think that I will submit to this man. When they get married, they discover I'm already married, I cannot submit to this man. Now the woman totally changes. And those are the things that play around marriages that brings unexpected, unmet expectation. I expected to marry a kind woman. Now look at this one. I was expecting that I am marrying a woman that will submit to me. Now look at this one. You will hear every time woman telling you, you know, I expected that you will be giving me time. I expected that you'll be available for me. Remember the girls plays when they are playing at home. They keep on talking about I will be cooking, my husband will be washing dishes, those fantasies. I will be when I will be spreading the bed, my husband, I don't know, will be doing what. And in fact, it becomes totally different from where we are raised from and what we are receiving at that particular time. All these things play along, and after sometimes it builds into agony because now you don't get what you thought you are getting.
Interesting.
Maybe I
Yes.
just add something little, and I say that our unmet expectations also come from non-acceptance of developmental stages. You see, you married a 23-year-old, but now this woman or this man is 30. They have experienced life. They have grown socially, emotionally, cognitively, they are physically, which is a natural course of life. So when you fail to acknowledge that this is not the 23-year-old that I married, and you expect them to be as naive and to be as humble as they were,
Innocent.
yes, it leads to unmet expectations.
Yeah, people come to marriage and they marry expecting that their marriage will be like so and so's marriage. You know, it is like I'm getting married to you, and I want our marriage, I want us to live like that other couple,
Or a certain actor.
a certain actor. And so the expectation, you are bringing totally different individuals, particularities, different completely. And so you expect to be like so and so. It cannot be. Definitely it will result in unmet expectation.
Before we take a short break, I just want to ask a question. Are spouses fully aware that they are dealing with unmet expectations? Are people usually aware?
Mostly they are not aware.
Mm-hmm.
They find themselves in a crisis.
Mm-hmm.
So they are responding to a crisis.
Mm-hmm.
You would hear sometimes them telling, I was expecting that you're going to take care of me. I was not, but they don't know that is unmet expectation. They think it's just a crisis that they have found themselves in. Because if they knew it was an expectation, maybe they will go back to the drawing board and redefine what they now expect from that point henceforth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, Vika. Do spouses or husband and wife aware that there is an unmet expectations?
Yes, some are aware that have not had that expectation from this person. And so what changes is that the way they will respond to that unmet expectation, which can take different angles.
Okay. Yes. Janet, do people, as a counselor, they aware?
I would say only those couples who have an open line of communication and very honest communication are aware. The rest are just and like they would just find themselves in a crisis. A crisis will provoke conversation.
Interesting conversation on unmet expectation. We'll be right back. Follow us on our YouTube page, Facebook channel, Conversations with Reverend Allan. Thank you. All right, we are on the second phase of unmet expectations, and we continue with discussions on unmet expectations that bring agony in marriage. And I want to continue with this wonderful panel from Reverend Allan, Reverend Rotich, and our counselor psychologist, Janet Surum Kiplagat. I want us to discuss on what happens in marriage when expectations are not met. What are some of the scenarios we experience when expectations are not met?
Okay, number one, I would say the one who feels like my expectation is they feel lied to. They feel lied to.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they were cheated into something different,
Mm-hmm.
and because of that, they get bitter,
Mm-hmm.
vengeful,
Mm-hmm.
depressed.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, I would say disappointments.
Mm-hmm.
You know, disappointment is a product of failing to get what you expected.
Mm-hmm.
So someone lives a disappointed life.
Mm-hmm.
And again, because these expectations are normally shared commonly, or it's a mutual expectation of many people,
Mm-hmm.
someone begins to live again a hypocritical life or a lie,
Mm-hmm.
trying to portray differently to her friends or his friends or a family or his family
Mm-hmm.
versus what they are going through in marriage.
Mm-hmm.
In marriage, this person may be going through a certain turmoil, but in her family or in his family or friends, it portrays like this is a perfect marriage according to what I expected and what they expected, and according to that which this man portrayed to us or this woman portrayed to us before we got married.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the problem with this expectation is it is normally projected to the family and the community. When I come to marry you, there's a certain personality that I present before your people.
Mm-hmm.
And you accept it and the people accept it. So when you come and you don't find it, you yourself, you have to lie to the people that what you saw is still what I have in my house. So you begin to live a lie yourself. Hypocrisy. Again, another thing I would say, it brings grudges and a desire to hurt back.
Mm-hmm.
This one has hurt me. I want to hurt back. Mm-hmm. I can also tell you it brings infidelity in marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Because someone may say, this man satisfies me in everything except sex.
Mm-hmm.
This man satisfies me in everything except money.
Mm-hmm.
So because you expected this in marriage, you go look for it outside, because a need must be met unless it is addressed.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say those are the things that people go through, and you find agony, a long-term depression, a long-term pain that someone grows with it because they are caged. They don't know how to run away from this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, those are very deep contributions, Vika. I see you nodding your head. What happens when?
Agreeing with me.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Yes,
What happens when these things are not there in marriage, or when you go out there and you discover there's so much unmet expectations.
I think what Reverend Allan has mentioned is that apart from something that a person goes through inside him or herself, in terms of resentment, in terms of disillusionment, in terms of that agony, diseases, infidelity, what? It comes in a package where a person is really looking for an opportunity to bring that which is not met to him or herself. Yes, to compensate. And so in that kind of a thing is that it results to several marriages. And when people fight because if they expected this and it's not forthcoming, they really want to demand for that. If they are not able to pick it from that particular spouse, they will pick it from another partner. Yes, and so there can be so many and complex, a compound of problems in that, and that is where agony is.
People feel shortchanged.
Yes, betrayed.
I am shortchanged. I am betrayed. Therefore, we begin to develop survival tactics. How am I going to survive in this situation? Some survival tactics may be positive, others may be detrimental. Yeah.
Counselor, psychologist, from your point of view, what really happens?
From my, I would say, I would put it in a psychological way. It leads to irrational restructuring of the mind in matters marriage. So you will have false beliefs. You'll have very can I say irrational. The word is irrational about marriage, and that is where you see in my practice I've seen people say marriage is a scam. Why? Because of unmet expectations, and it's mostly it's not a scam. It's because of the false pattern of beliefs that people have been forced into because of these unmet expectations. So we've all had marriage is a scam. It is because of unmet expectations.
And maybe to dig deeper as a counselor, like in terms of intra-conflict, the issues to do with you fighting within yourself, the issues of intra-conflict,
the way a person deals with that themselves. I think it's manifested in what our men of God have talked about. They have talked about the disappointments, and these things actually, it is a form of emotional abuse. When we have consistent unmet expectations, it is emotional abuse. And anything emotional is intra. So the person themselves will have a manifestation of a lot of the symptoms of emotional abuse, which are, of course, disappointment, bitterness, resentment, about now not only the marriage, not only the person, but in the very small things of life. It is shown how people carry themselves, how people perceive others. It is mostly a reflection of what they are going through, and not necessarily about the other person. Yeah.
And again, it affects productivity of this person that feel I am cheated. It affects their productivity. Now they begin to respond by not giving themselves to this other person. Marriage is about giving yourself, giving your body, giving your work, giving your world to this other person. So when the expectation is not met, you begin to abscond, to reduce your giving power to this person. Now in the process, now the other person now begin to feel that my expectation is not met in this marriage. That when I married you, I knew you are a hard-working person. Nowadays, you are not hardworking. Yet the other person is telling herself or himself, when I married you, I knew that you are a gentleman, a good man, but now you are not a gentleman. So we begin to affect with the productivity of each other. Sometimes we corrupt. And this is why sometimes you discover one spouse is investing outside secretly and silently without the knowledge of the other one. Or you discover the other spouse has decided to get children outside marriage. Because when I got married, I expected to get children from my wife. Now my wife is not getting children. Now you go outside, you organize yourself, you get children. or I expected my husband to give me children, but he's not giving me children. Now you go outside. In developed cultures where people are so liberal, it normally develops to divorces. That's why a lot of divorces are in developed cultures, because they are open to what they want and what they need and what they expect. So they say, what I came for in this marriage, I'm not getting it. Therefore, I am walking out. In Africa, a conservative, a closed culture, it is the same, but people are hiding. They are living a lie. They don't want to do things openly as that. You know, Africa, many people have already divorced. Yeah. Many people are not sharing beds in Africa. Many people have already married while they are still in their marriage in Africa. They are surviving based on our cultural context. Yeah.
That's why I want Janet.
Yes, it may as well result to in typical African context, polygamy. Yeah, where if you are not able to get from this, bring another one, maybe to fix the thing. And so if you are not able to get that, bring another one, and on, which is a little bit loose, and people actually become loose. They are not so strong into believing what the tenets and the beliefs in a marriage.
As our counselor is a champion on mental health issues and stigma, maybe in Africa there is a lot of stigma when your marriage is not working. Yeah, please contribute.
Oh yeah, it's true. Actually,
the issue of stigma and the issue of mental health.
Yeah, you see, we'll hold on to this marriage because it's the perception is it's better to be tied to someone. It's better to be seen to be in a working marriage than to be out there. And by the way, even in my experience as a counselor, there's so many people who are living, they are married but single. And so, but they cannot just own up and say that I have an issue and I better let go. But now because of that, we hold on to a marriage and it results to mental health issues. You see a lot of depressed people. You see people who have bipolar. Sometimes bipolar is because of these underlying issues. Also borderline personality disorder. You are actually so confused. Let me not even use the word. It is stigmatizing to use confused. I'm sorry about that. You become entwined in some emotional circus that you develop disorders that you did not have. Yeah.
To the men of God, we are discussing about unmet expectations, but I know you handle marital issues, and maybe somebody is talking to you as a pastor and telling you these are unmet expectations. But again, you bring the aspect of the fruit of the Holy Spirit of being patient, being kind. What are your thoughts around that? Because even in church, the way we handle marital conflict, matters of unmet expectations, we keep on encouraging people to hold on, to pray, and this person is really in agony. What are your thoughts? Because maybe I come to you and I'm telling you, Pastor, I'm like this, and you're telling, oh, sister, remember about the fruits of the Holy Spirit. Remember about being gentle. Yes, sir.
I start it?
Any can.
Okay, I would want to handle it based on the causes of those unmet expectations. I would want to maybe to classify how I handle issues based on the causes. You know, there are things like unmet expectations whereby when you married somebody, you thought that all of you are going to stay in Kenya, but one of you was having a plan to migrate to other country. So that's a different one. Like you were marrying somebody, you knew that this somebody is a teacher, suddenly has become a pastor. He has brought the whole church into your life. Or you are marrying somebody, you thought that you are marrying your good husband or your good wife, suddenly she's become a politician, a member of parliament. She rarely stays at home. You know, member of parliament is married or is married so many people, constituency. So their activities, they are all over there. So, number two, there's unmet expectation based on natural situations, like diseases, like issues like impotence, long-term illness, whereby you can do nothing about it. And there's another one, just based on perceptions that you had versus what you're having now. And there's another one, somebody has changed in character. He was not drunk, has become drunk, is now violent. I would say there are situations I would insist on patience and tell people, let us keep on praying, let us keep on talking, and see whether things will change. But there are some situations that is life-threatening. I would advise somebody to take a break and all of them to rethink and refocus and see whether they need each other or they don't need each other in this marriage. I would tell them, give yourselves time a little bit and see whether, after discovering I expected this from my marriage and I'm not getting it, if I want to continue living with it. Number 3, I would also at some point would tell somebody prayerfully, let us try to speak to the other person to see where they can change and where they cannot change. There's this, you married somebody who was saved and then suddenly becomes a drunkard. He becomes a drug addict and all those things that you cannot change them. I would always say, let us pray for this person as our own. But if it comes to a place that is so abusive, sometimes I would tell you, just give yourself a space and continue to develop yourself as you're praying for the other person. Don't let your life die with the life of the other person. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, that is it from the pastor. Still to add is that when people come to marriage, I will still say marriage is not an event. Marriage is a life. And someone said, actually, and this is Heraclitus, a philosopher, whatever is, and whatever is changing. And he brings an allegory of a river and says, no one has ever crossed a river twice. For if they crossed that river, the waters which actually he crossed have gone, and even if he comes back, he will be crossing some other waters. And so life always change, and things change. Even in marriage, marriage is that one which changes, and it should be changing to be good. It should be changing to be something enjoyable. And so for me is that when we align our expectation towards that life which is changing to be better, because what normally pains people in marriage, that unmet expectation is one which you are not aligned, you have not aligned yourself to it. You expected children, and maybe children are not forthcoming, definitely may not come at all. And so you have not, we need to adopt ourselves again to align ourselves to a life which we expect no children. And so many times is that marriage has got milestones. Marriage has got stages. And so as we get along, as we even age, as we get to a particular milestone, we must be clarifying our expectations. And so we invite one who is not changing, but one who is a causative agent in terms of aligning ourselves to change, and that one is God and Holy Spirit.
Thank you. As we want to wind up this wonderful discussion on unmet expectations, maybe my final question to all of us is there hope? How can someone deal with an unmet expectations so that we can avert agony and or deal with agony or heal from agony? Is there hope, Janet?
Yes, there's hope. But there's a question in form of a triad. Is it an unmet expectation? Is it an uncommunicated expectation? Or is it an unrealistic expectation? First, we must answer those three. After that, now we say, if it is an unrealistic expectation, the first thing is to let go. Let go and accept the reality. Number 2, if then it is something uncommunicated, I would say have an open and honest conversation. If in the case of uncommunicated, actually it's good for couples to embrace. You remember what we talked about, the Bermuda Triangle, sex, money, time? It also evolves around that. So have an open and honest communication. And number 3, if then it is an unmet expectation, you have to readjust and probably seek to understand yourself more. Am I viewing this man from a point of my dad? Am I viewing them from a point of my background or information that I've collected from my environment, from the social media? So I have to seek. Sometimes some of us marriage on social media, based on social media. Yeah, on movies, Alejandro, I don't know what. So seek. The third very key thing is to seek self-understanding. Why am I feeling that my expectations are not met? If again it is based on things that are not genuine, then revert back. Number one, let go, have realistic expectations. Number two, embrace an open communication. And the circle goes that way.
Interesting input there, which is very rich. Vika,
Yes.
how do you deal? Is there hope?
There is hope. For me, I will begin by saying TBT. Go back to the factory settings. When you began, what did you expect? Yeah? Begin from there and say, I expected this. Communicate what you expected. Communicate the change. And then from there, adopt now with the new realities. And so you will be able, of course, in terms of sick, we're gonna we need to be aided. We need to be helped in terms of coming out of our agonies. And if these agonies are caused by unmet expectations, then someone is out there to help us to come out of them. Maybe ourselves may not be so clear. Yeah? The future of our marriages or something may not be so clear. It is kind of misty. So someone could be looking from a different perspective and helping us to unpack and also to set some other expectations in marriages which are conducive for both of us.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would end by saying the way Janet redefined it, say unrealistic,
then
uncommunicated,
and then
unmet. I think if you are a victim of an unmet expectation, you before even you address the other person, you need to start addressing yourself. If it is within those three areas, again, I would actually say you need to come into a place and say, was my marriage temporary, or was it according to the Bible till death do us apart? If it was temporary, you can think otherwise. But if it was still death do us apart, for better and for worse, for better and for worse, something needs to be discussed in the future. What is the worst that will be the worst? Are you going to be killed as you still for better and for the worse? But now, if it was for better and for worse, you come to a place and tell yourself, I want to keep my marriage. Therefore, if I want to keep my marriage, how am I going to deal with this unmet expectation? You sit down, you see what can be addressed, what can be changed, what cannot be changed, and then you say, this is where I am, and rewrite your expectation based on where you are and the person that you know. You can't expect a TV to do the work of a radio. If you bought a radio and you thought it was a TV, now you know it is not a TV, it is a radio. So if you took this man and you thought it was a different man, now you know it's not that different man, it is this man. Now begin to rewrite your expectation based on the man that you have, or based on the woman that you have. Rewrite and say, oh God, give me power, patience, wisdom to change things that I can change, to accept things that I can accept, and to live where you have given me to live. You begin to make such kind of prayers. Number 3, again, if it is something that is so detrimental, take it to other people to help you. Speak with other people. Communicate with your spouse. Discuss with them. Tell them, this is what I expected, and this is what I'm getting. If they are arrogant, if they are violent, try God. The Bible says, unless the Lord builds a house, those who are building it are doing it in vain. You cannot run away from your own flesh. The Bible says, flesh of your flesh. My wife is my flesh. I cannot run away from my flesh. I try as much as possible to see, now I'm going to embrace my flesh. Nowadays, I normally tell people sometimes, bring the devil into the picture and say, I know this is not my wife. This is the devil that is trying to use my wife. and become like Paul that say, we do not wage war against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, rulers of darkness, and spiritual wickedness in heavenly places, and begin to see those things in this person, and then begin to engage in war differently, prayerfully, economically, emotionally, until you overthrow the enemy, so that you may be able to keep your marriage. I come to a place and I think we must keep our marriage. We must just keep our marriage, however painfully and costly it may be. You cannot get a better marriage. Most likely you'll get the same kind of a marriage, because your expectation will still be the same, and you'll still meet the people with that will not meet your expectation. Let us bring the Lord. Let us pray. Let us bring the Christ aspect in everything that we are doing.
Wow, interesting conversations from these wonderful people in this conversation. Unmet expectation indeed is an agony in marriages, and people don't really talk about it. But this is some of the things that is bringing sadness, crippling affairs, and bringing a lot of issues around marriage. It has been a wonderful time, and we are really delighted to hear these wonderful contributions. And this wonderful time has just elapsed. I just want to say thank you to Janet Surum Kiplagat. Always a pleasure to have you around. Our lovely vicar, SK Belgut Parish. Blessings. Thank you for always coming. And the host of the show, thank you for giving us this opportunity
Karibuni.
to speak and air issues that people don't want to talk about. So it is from us to you. We say thank you. I've been your moderator, Vivian Kibeyu. See you again.